Sir, the people who are going to watch this VTR are not just media planner and media buyers, but the young media practitioners. What is your message for the next generation? Yung susunod na Mike Enriquez.
Ganon? Malas mo naman.
Dito ba yun?
I was 19 years old, and the world was for me to conquer. Out of the blue, one of the executives pointed to me and said, "Why don't you anchor?" I said, "This is not a made-for-television face." My own mother used to say that. The director then was a guy named Tony Toviera. And he said, "This guy can be a newscaster." So I will forever not forgive him for what he said. Integrity is believing in what you do, and integrity is having the right values, and integrity is sticking to those values no matter what. And there are a lot of no matter whats in this industry. You have to find happiness in making other people happy and helping other people grow. And in that way, you also become happy and you also grow.
Rolling.
Galing po, Sir Mike. Galing po and...
Sa kanya tingin.
Sir Mike, this is going to be your intro VTR. So before they honor you in the first ever MSAP Icon Awards, this will be shown in the program, in the event. So sir, could you recall for us, tell us your journey, how from graduating from LaSalle, you became a radio jock and then an anchor, an award-winning anchor, the first and only anchor in the Philippines to be awarded in the Asian Television Awards, and then the president of RGMA,
Yeah.
and then a pillar in the media industry right now.
Pilar.
It's a long journey.
I started while still a student, and many of the big events in my career, in my professional life, were a series of breaks, if you may. The very, very, very first was my entry into the industry itself. I was second year college, and a friend of mine who was working in a radio station invited me to visit him in his studio, in his booth. I had no interest then of being a broadcaster. My only interest in radio, there was not much TV at that time, was as a listener of soap operas. Kapitan Kidlat, Katotohanan, Guni-Guni, mga kwento ni Lola Basyang, Gabi ng Lagim. Those were what I was listening to. People like Bobby Nang, etc. And so one day, our professor was absent, and the station was one jeepney ride away along Taft Avenue. So I decided to kill time by visiting my friend. At that time, they needed 2 announcers very badly. And until they hired 2 new ones, they wouldn't have any days off, because 2 of their announcers one was under suspension and the other one was sick. So when I was in the booth, the station manager entered, and my friend introduced me to him and said, "This is my friend Mike, and he's applying for a job." And I said, "What? I'm not applying for a job." And the manager, and he said, "No harm in trying." I was 19 years old, and the world was for me to conquer, nothing to lose. So I said, "What do I do?" And he said, read anything from the front page of that paper." So I read an article about teachers doing election duty in Mindanao. And after I read it, the manager asked me, he said, "When can you start training?" Again, 19 years old, and you have the whole world at the beck of your call. And so I said, "When do you want me to start?" And he said, "Tomorrow." And so the next day I was there. And the rest is what you have now. Oh yeah. So from being a trainee announcer, where you could not do anything but give the time, in those days, that was as far as you could go if you were a trainee. You'd be lucky if they allowed you to sit in the booth and spin records that they don't exist anymore. And then I went on to become a reporter, a program director, station manager, general manager of a medium-sized network until my journey to GMA. And GMA in the 1990s was looking for someone to manage the expansion of the radio business because they were building up value for an IPO, an initial public offering. They were going to sell shares to the public, and they thought that expanding the radio business and adding a revenue stream would increase the value of the shares. So they asked me if I could lead the expansion of the radio business. When I joined GMA, they only had 4 radio stations. 2 in Manila, 1 AM and FM, and 2 in Cebu. Today they have 27. It would have been 60. Huh?
How did that happen, sir?
How did that happen?
Yeah.
Oh, a lot of hard work, a lot of sweat, a lot of tears, a lot of commitment, a lot of passion, which is the key word as far as I'm concerned, and also a lot of funds, because you need money to fund any expansion in broadcasting, principally for the hardware and the technology. But the most important investment we made in our radio business was in people. So it was my job to make sure we had the right people doing the right things with the right resources at the right time. So from 4 stations in 1995, now we have 27.
Later on, sir, we will have a more lengthy talk about the people you were.
Ganon? Sige.
But let's
Tira.
not forget that.
Yeah, pwede mo nalang i-google sila yung mga pag may binabanggit akong pangalan.
Opo, sige.
Di ba?
Sir.
Or Wikipedia, whatever.
Opo.
Okay.
But let us not forget that you are one of the most awarded anchors,
Yes.
broadcast journalists
Yes.
in this country.
Yes.
And you have a small anecdote kanina, sir, that Mr. T was actually instrumental.
Yes. Oh, si Mr. T, Mariosep na tao yan. In 1995, there was an election coverage. I joined GMA to be an officer, to be an executive, to manage, not to appear on camera. Okay, that was not part of the conversation. In 1995, they were planning the election coverage, and I was there to represent the radio part of the coverage. And several days, a few days before the election itself, they were desperate. They needed more male anchors. They had more female anchors than male anchors. And so out of the blue, one of the executives pointed to me and said, "Why don't you anchor?" And I said, "What? Excuse me? And why don't you anchor?" And I asked, "For television?" And they said, "Yes." I said, "Are you joking or are you serious?" No, we're serious. And I said, "This is not a made-for-television face." My own mother used to say that. And so they said, no, you anchor. So I anchored, and the director then was a guy named Tony Toviera. And after
Who
the...
has an eye for talent.
Huh?
Who has an eye for talent, sir?
Oh,
Obviously.
definitely. Well, yeah. And then, so after the coverage, I was exhausted. I was drained. You know, when adrenaline goes on overdrive, and then it dies down after you do what you're doing. And he came up to the group, and he said, "This guy can be a newscaster. So I will forever not forgive him for what he said." And every time I see Mr. T, I hug him. Yeah, this is all his doing. This is all his discovery. And I hope when he talks about this legacy or legacies, I will merit to be included even in a small way in his list.
So, Sir Mike, what's the turning point in your life? When did you realize that you actually exude charm and credibility na that's enough for TV for you to be a broadcast journalist?
Ganon?
Yes, sir.
Charm
When did
and
you
what?
accept that?
When did I accept
When
that?
did you embrace that?
Yeah.
Was that after the awards, Asian Television
Yeah.
Awards,
That
New York Festival?
long before the awards. You know, things like credibility, things like creativity, innovation, right? I was still an all radio person then. We were already doing that. See, we established stations like what used to be known, it still is now called, but they've changed the format, the Mellow Touch. We put that station up from scratch. And other station, DWKC 93.9, the all joke station, and that started the trend in speaking Tagalog on FM, which was unheard of before. Innovation, creativity, and when you're doing news work credibility, it sorts of it sorts of grows on you, and you grow into it, and then you realize, if I don't have these things, I will, number one, not last long, because people will not believe and trust me, and number two, competition will eat us up alive. So there you go.
Sir, you mentioned trust. One of the criterions for the MSAP Icon Awards, that's why they chose you, is integrity.
Yes.
Can you please talk about integrity? How important is integrity to you in this
Yes.
business you are in?
Well, integrity is one of the bedrocks of what we do as broadcasters. Not only broadcasters who face the camera regularly, and not only reporters or producers, everybody in this profession, and sometimes I call this a vocation. Everybody in this profession and vocation needs integrity if he or she is in here for the long term. Instant success and instant, in the case of some, instant riches and fame and fortune is no reason not to sacrifice integrity. Integrity is believing in what you do, and integrity is having the right values, and integrity is sticking to those values no matter what. And there are a lot of no matter whats in this industry.
Sir Mike, another criterion is inspiration. While I was here, sorry, is someone sarili ko. While I was here,
Sige, go.
I'm very much aware that the people who work for you really love you. They call you
They
Ama.
do?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, they call me Booma. Some of them call me now they call me,
Some-
before they didn't call me this. Now they're starting to call me Lolo. Son of a bitches. Oh, sige, tapos.
Tapos, even yung mga staff po ni Kuya Germs, may anecdote sila na you would always, nung buhay pa si Kuya Germs, you would always visit the booth.
Yes.
Sobrang alaga mo po ang mga taga-radyo talaga.
Yes.
Is this work culture that you're trying to promote na, alam naman natin,
That is the culture we have in GMA Radio. I do not only take care of my coworkers, we all take care of each other. And this thing of visiting Kuya Germs in the booth and saying hi, if only for a few minutes, these things mean a lot in a profession, in a job that is high stressed, di ba? That has your adrenaline pumping 24/7. It's a big thing, which is sometimes overlooked. It's a big thing to have somebody come to you, tap you on the shoulder, and say, "Hi, how's things going today?" Or, "Hey, that was a nice program yesterday." That is the culture here. And once I was talking to one of our officers, and I asked him, "Do you know what the secret of making stations rate?" And he was looking at me, and he couldn't answer. And I said, "I'll give you one word." And then he couldn't answer, and I said, "Okay, it's people. The equipment, the technology, everything else you can buy with money. If you don't have the money, you can borrow it, right? But the people are who will make it run, and who will make it a success, and who will make it of value to the listeners, to the shareholders, and to each other." So this is all about people.
Speaking of these people, Sir Mike, how do you want them to remember Mike Enriquez? These people.
I don't know if I want them to remember me. Well, for those who will, I'd like them, for the many whom I've worked with, I'd like them to be able to say, I used to work with that guy, and I learned a lot of things from him. Never mind this, he was my boss, he was my, my president and all of that. Simply, I learned a lot from this guy. So that's all.
Sir, can you give us a glimpse of your human side? That you're also a husband. And
Malitrato yun.
may
Espanya.
travel. Kaya sir, yun ang request talaga namin, yung mga travel.
Nga pala yung
Kasi
mga
that's your human
yung mga
side.
aso namin.
Ay,
Sasabihin ko kasi na wala kaming anak. We have 2 children. A Maltese named Mickey and a poodle named Buma. Yun.
Wala ka
Pag
pang binigay.
pwede mo ikat. Ha?
Wala ka pa pang binigay. Ito.
Meron na, taray mo. Oh, sige.
at Buma po yung pangalan ng isang dog. Buma.
Correct! Oh, sige.
So,
Human
sir,
side.
Yun yung human side yun na gusto rin namin ipakita.
Yeah.
Kasi ang alam ng mga tao, you're
Yeah,
on TV,
yeah.
on radio.
It's all work, work, work.
Yes, but
Okay.
you have a life.
Excuse me?
But
Yeah.
you have a life, sir.
Yes. You need to have a life. You need to be human. You need to be like everybody else in order to succeed in this job. You need to feel what people go through every day. You need to feel good sometimes like they do, and you need to feel bad sometimes like they do. It's got to be human. The late Casey Kasem, he used to host a very famous radio program in the US called American Top 40, would always end all his shows, regular, no fail, with this line: reach way up high for the stars, but keep your feet on the ground. That's what it's all about. So, outside of the booth, outside of the studio, outside of the office, we take trips and we have get-togethers, and just like any other family. We do have a family, my wife and I. We have 2 kids. We have a poodle named Buma, and we have a Maltese named Mickey. And that's more than enough. Don't you ever get a 3rd dog. Yeah.
Sir, can you imagine a life outside GMA or after GMA?
Well, yeah, okay. I had a heart bypass a little over a year ago. And so for 2 months, I just stayed home. And for once in my life, I was waking up at 7 or 8 in the morning. I wake up at 5 for my radio program in the morning. And I would hear the birds chirping outside in our garden, which I never heard a lot of. Because I wake up at 4 or 5 and I leave the house, it's all dark and everybody's asleep, including the birds in the garden, right? And so when I had to recuperate from my surgery, I would wake up at 7:30. I would hear the birds chirping, and I would have coffee leisurely and not look at my watch every now and then, and not worry about this meeting or that meeting and this deadline and that deadline. And I said, my God, I missed this. I gave all this up just to go on the air, just to be president of our GMA. You know? I said, this is life. But then, after 2 to 3 months, I started to miss going back to work. And so I went back to work. So I know it's a cliche now, but it's all about balance. And balance, it's not in terms of quantity or number of hours, not in terms of number of minutes or days. It's in terms of the quality of what you do, whether it's at work, it's at home, it's at play.
Sir, the people who are going to watch this video are not just media planner and media buyers, but the young media practitioners.
Yeah.
What is your message for the next generation? Yung
The
susunod
next-
na Mike Enriquez.
Ganon? Malas nyo naman. Pasok nyo na, malas nyo naman. To the... Okay. Well, what do I say? Make sure that you have passion, and make sure that your passion keeps burning up to the last minute. You will need a lot of that in this job. Because without passion, you will not be able to face the difficulties, the challenges, and you also will not be able to enjoy whatever success you will have, which I wish you a lot of. You need to have passion. Passion for what you do, passion for truth, passion for taking care of people. You have to find happiness in making other people happy and helping other people grow. And in that way, you also become happy and you also grow. Sounds like Mother Teresa. Okay. Pwede na makuha yun. Sounds like Mother Teresa. Tatawa sila. Yun.
Sir Mike, siguro last na po.
Sige.
The Media Specialist Association of the Philippines or MSAP is honoring you with an Icon Award.
Yes.
Ngayon lang po nila gagawin to because it's their 10th
Yes.
anniversary.
Yes.
O baka hindi na nila gawin ever.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? They are calling you, of course, alam namin naman sa GMA nung nandito pa kayo, legend, you're an icon, but right now, all the media practitioners,
Yeah.
the organization is
Yes.
honoring you as an icon.
Yes. When I was told by Hermie De Leon that she asked for an appointment, and she said, I need to talk to you. I said, what about? And I said, just email me. Sabi niya, no, this is personal. And, you know, for days on end, I was intrigued. Why would Hermie want to talk to me about something personal? And so we met here, and she said, well, we have these Icon Awards. It will be on November, and there were 10 of you, and you have been chosen by the Board of Judges as one of them. And I asked her, out of ignorance, this is your, how many, pang ilan na to? How many Icon Awards have you had? I said, was this a yearly thing, or is this your 4th or 5th or 10th? And she said, this is the one and only Icon Awards. And we may not have another one in the future. And I said, and who are the other awardees? And she started rattling off the names of Mang Bert and Minda and all these other big names in the industry. And I said, you're going to put my name alongside these people? And I said, Hermie, are you okay? But first was disbelief. Diba? Na how can I be ranked together with these other people who are receiving awards tonight? Mekoy Kyoge and all these other guys. You know, but well, it's a blessing, and I firmly believe this is God's way of sending little messages to all of us. Whether you win awards or a promotion or a simple pat in the back, it's God's way of sending you the message. Keep it up, boy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sir Mike.
Cut po.